Hello everybody, you're very welcome back to Law Hero. My name is Jen and I make videos about the law and all things associated with the law. And today I'm here to help you to try and achieve whatever goals you're trying to achieve. Today is a real motivation video and it is inspired by Limerick's win last Sunday at the All-Ireland final. I personally had two cousins involved in that final, which I'm very proud of. I'm not from Limerick, I'm actually from Cork. They're from Limerick, but the names are Dan and Tom Morrissey. And today my mum actually sent me on an article from the Limerick Leader, which Tom Morrissey did. And there was a few points in there I thought to myself that would make for a really interesting video, because I can tease out some of the things he said. Because obviously if you watch the match on Sunday, you know that even though Limerick were very strong, there were some points in the game where, for example, they were level and Kilkenny seemed to be making a comeback. That being said, as Tom says in the article, the refusal to panic, as I said on Sunday, that is the sign of a true champion, and that's something I wish I had more of. So when I was reading down through the article, which I'll just flick up here, there was a few things the interviewer asked, and he said, it's not to panic, it's a characteristic. So if you think about it, when somebody says characteristic, they're not talking about a personality trait, they're talking about a characteristic, and that means something that you can learn and something you can build into your artillery over time. Just forget what just happened and go again. Now, that is something that is very, very useful if you think about it. So a panic response is one where the body is under perceived stress. And what he's saying here is that even though for them objectively they're under stress, they don't panic because they're following a process and they've been told you just go get to the next ball and answer with a score. So what that means is they have an automatic reflex that they've been taught by their management, or that they have, that they've discussed that when X happens, this is the Y response. And that is why I always talk about negative visualization as well as positive visualization, because what this Limerick team are basically saying is that we have already a default for the worst possible outcome. Now, you might ask, Jen, how does one develop an automatic response to a stressful situation? Through practice and through doing it in training. So I would imagine that if you're training on the Limerick team, you put yourself in stressful scenarios. It's actually a very old theory of psychology and of performance, which is, what that basically means is that you should have covered all bases so that when you actually go to perform, you've left no stone unturned. So it's fair to say here as well that experience has played a role in their resilience. So there's a book called How Badly Do You Want It by Matt Fitzgerald. And his argument in the book is that how badly do you want it is the biggest question when it comes to performance. This is above training and ability. You could argue that on Sunday, Limerick wanted it more than Kilkenny, and that's why they won. So in his book, he argues that the alternative model of how the brain regulates performance is called the psychobiological model, which is about decision making. And it's about all the tiny micro decisions that come along when you're in the throes of your performance. So for example, if you're running, the body will go, I want to stop now, but for some reason you keep going. These are all the little decisions. I'm too warm, but we're going to keep going. We're going to drink later. And all of this is based around your conscious brain and its perception or sensation of how hard, heavy or strenuous what you're doing is. And he argues in the book that you cannot improve as an athlete or a person unless you change your perception of effort. And now, interestingly enough, perception, I'm reading a book at the moment, I think I told you all this before, called Sunny Brain, Rainy Brain by Elaine Fox. And she argues that perception, i.e. the lens with you see things through, has a lot to do with your memory, how you were reared, the experiences you were exposed to, but quite frankly, how you align in your mind, just like Jeremy Bentham argued, the pursuit of pain and pleasure. So my argument is that the Limerick team found some sort of pleasure in being the underdogs. And even when their back is to the wall, there's something inside them which allows them to overcome that and not self-sabotage them. This is true for all of us. We need to be able to find some pleasure in the discomfort of the struggle. And for them, that meant focusing on the process. Research has shown that it's not pressure which causes people to choke. It's actually self-consciousness. You're too conscious of your ability and you're too present to your negative thoughts. There is a heightened self-awareness. The opposite is when you're drunk, for example. And what happens is you pay more attention to your doubt because it seems more rational and because the brain loves certainty. And if you're performing well, more than you thought you would, this is actually cognitive dissonance. And it's being able to control that kind of runaway thoughts. That is the mark of a true champion. And what happens is, because you are so distracted by looking inwards, you've forgotten the processes which you've been taught. And this brings us back to Limerick. They have a plan for every issue they come across when they're performing, which takes away the need to look inward and to start questioning things. So rather than looking inward, they look outward at what's happening and they try and regain control over the situation. Pressure-induced self-consciousness also harms performance by reducing movement efficiency. Athletes move more efficiently when their focus is on their environment, which is looking out, rather than internally, which is looking in. Self-consciousness also increases your perceived effort. You need to be distracted from your suffering. That's why, for example, people listen to music when they work out. This means that you need to learn how to silence your inner critic. And of course, this self-consciousness, we often call it choking, but the opposite to choking is flow. If you ever did rap battles, you'll know somebody choked, someone had flow. This is exactly what it means. And being in flow means a complete immersion in a purposeful activity. You might remember from my Top Gun video, I said you should just do, not think. Athletes who lack self-belief have trouble taming their inner critic. And what happens is the negative thoughts come from an excessive emphasis on the outcome. Again, as Tom alluded to in the article, you need to focus on the process. The mother of all coaching skills is called resilience, which is defined as a general ability to respond to adversity. It means that you always find a workaround. You make your disadvantage your advantage. Training is obviously the way to produce this. I've done countless videos on confidence. Confidence comes from experience and feeding forward, or the cookie jar, as David Goggins calls it. And this is backed by numerous studies. It means that you have a bias for optimism based on your memories and your perception of the past. A variety of experiments have also shown that expectation of success undoubtedly improves performance. According to the psychobiological model, any influence which may cause an athlete to believe they can perform better has the potential to result in a better performance. That means the more positive you think about the performance, the better it will be. That seems obvious, but you would be surprised how many people, including myself, feed our negativity. The last point is to be yourself and become comfortable with uncertainty. Those are my tips. I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll see you in the next one. And I hope that when the time comes for you to perform, that more than anything, you will want it badly enough to succeed.